Welcome to Learn to Enjoy Sewing. I'm Phil Newfrio, and I will be guiding you through the necessities of making a fitted skirt with a commercial pattern. This video will show you what supplies you will need and how to construct the garment step by step. All the steps shown will get you on your way to enjoy sewing on your own. The patterns that I see a lot of beginners using is simplicity patterns. The reason why is because these people give you a step-by-step from 1 to 10 without missing anything. So for me, I like using simplicity for beginners. And they have such a wonderful variety. You can go from anything from jackets to pants to their new dummy collection, which is Sewing for Dummies. These are very nice, and I think you get a lot in them. We're going to go to our pattern. You need to know what's inside this, inside and out. You cannot rely on the person in the store anymore. Most of these items that you're seeing on this video are found in most local sewing centers or at a Fabricland store. The first thing we're going to start with is the outside package of the pattern. Here we go. We've got the front. The front will give you what's called views. These are all your views which are located inside your package. You'll have the company name because you're going to be bringing up yourself a lot of patterns because you're building up a library. You'll also have the number that it corresponds. But the moment you turn over to the package, here's what you have. You have what's called technical drawings. These drawings are really good for you so that you know exactly what's incorporated in the pattern. They'll show you anything from any ruffles, zippers, and etc. These are from the back. The front cover gives you the view from the front. We have two little packages here that a lot of people get scared, and you shouldn't, because pretty much one side is English and the other side is in French. We live in a multicultural country, which means that we have to know the metric system, and using that, we'll look at the English and move to the metric. Most of your sewing that you're going to be doing is going to be cut in meters, but it's going to be sewn and calculated in inches. So here we go. The first thing we need to know is your body measurement. We've already taken all of our body measurements. Now we got to apply it to the package. On the English version, you'll see what's called body measurements. It's time for you to find that out. My rule of thumb is I take my measurements that I have in the stores, which means when I go shopping, if I'm a size 10, I take a size 10. When you actually shop for a pattern, I like the rule of thumb of taking 2 measurements more, which means the pattern you'll choose will be 10, 12, 14. So here we go. We have it. We've pretty much outlined all of our body measurements. Now we need to know the view. On the English version, we're going to pick out the view that we want. Skirt A, B, C, all of it. Circle that one. Once you've circled it, you'll find that you have different measurements underneath. One will say 45 inch and the other will say 60 inch. Those are the widths of your fabric. The moment you follow your finger right across, you'll start seeing almost the same thing. Well, this brings us back to grade school, where they taught us how to read a map. When your teacher used to say M7, once you line those 2 fingers up, you found your destination. Well, that's pretty much the rule here. Once you follow it through, you'll end up with the destination. So, for doing skirt A, it'll be skirt A on the opposite side. And if we're doing size 10, once we get size 10 and we push our finger down to skirt A, we'll end up having an amount. That amount is what you ask for in your width. So, for example, right now a size 10 would equal in a 45 inch, a meter 50. So when you're at the counter, that's what you'll ask for, is a meter 50. So once you've established that, you have to move on. You need to get interfacing. Well, you look for exactly where it says interfacing, and that's what you apply, once again, using a map system. Once you have that, your last step is to actually go ahead and read for notions. Now, they'll tell you just thread because they don't know how many boo-boos you're going to make. So pretty much you take as much thread as you need. I like to take a little bit more thread just in case something always goes wrong, you'll have it in stock. Always keep your spool because of that reason that you're going to go back with the same number. You might not remember what number that is, and you might not remember the exact color. So always keep it with you. Once you get to the notions, it'll tell you the zipper size, should you need buttons, should you need a hook and eye. All of that has to be purchased before you even start. Why? Because you should have all of your notions with you before you commence. Let's go inside. Once we go inside, we start seeing stuff that were really, really alien to us. Don't feel so bad. Everything, like I said, in Simplicity is from step 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to step 10. So here we go. On the front package, you have all the little details that you need, but on the inside, it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So we have exactly what the skirt is going to look at the front and the back, the pattern pieces, which you should always check out to make sure they're in there. Then we'll go into general instructions, because you need to know what all of those little abbreviations on your patterns mean. Then you'll have little odds and ends that tell you how to lengthen and shorten it, should you need it. And then, right next to it, you have this beautiful selection of all the different types of skirts. So you'll have like skirt A, skirt B, you cut it this way, you cut it that way. You must read all your instructions. Once you've gone through the front portion, on the inside, it'll give you from step 1 to 13, whatever it is. This must be read, because if you read this before you commence, you won't have any problems. But if you try to do it like a professional, which knows what everything goes in place, you'll have a problem. So read your instructions. That's what they're there for. Once you've read your instructions, you can pretty much put that away and then use it up later. Here we have the pattern. It usually comes all folded up, ready to go. You'll have to decide at this point what skirt you have to do. So pick out the skirt that you like and cut out the pattern piece. This black line indicates cutting line. That's where you cut the fabric, not where you sew it, so don't add. All of these patterns incorporate a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Some of them are 3/8, some are 5/8. But a 1/2 inch is a good size for yourself. The only reason is it's easier to calculate. Remember what I said before? Most of the fabrics you'll buy will be metric. But when you're calculating, it's so much easier to do a 1/2 plus a 1/2, gives you an inch, than to do 2.3 millimeters plus 5.4 millimeters. So cut out the design that you want. Always use the largest size, because what we're doing is not ready to wear, which is what the pattern people give you. We're trying to do a little step further called couture. We're going to make this to fit you. So here we go. It just so happens I've already done a little previous work, and here we have it. I've cut out the black line, the biggest line, in both pieces. I've got my front and I've got my back. We have to now decide what all of this means. The best thing to do is always carry 3 different types of markers. So rummage through your kids' stuff and see what kind of markers you can get, or steal them off of your brother if you have to. So here we go. Anytime you see this kind of symbol, that means it's to be placed on the fold of the fabric. Anytime you see this kind of a symbol, or this kind, it means a certain grain line. That grain line means it's got to be smack right in the middle of the fabric. Because if you don't, and you happen to have it a little distorted, the problem will happen that it'll be off on you. And that's where you get all those pulling and squeezing that people happen to have when they buy cheap stuff. But we're going to make couture, which means it's going to fit you. So here we go. The first thing that I've done is I've marked out all my seam allowances. So in 3 different colors from the black line, I'm going to take my measuring tape. I'm going to start with the purple one, and I mark it out. I take it from the next size, and I mark another 1/2 inch over. I take it from the size 10, and I mark a 1/2 inch over. Now you're wondering, why am I doing all this work? Because just like a carpenter, we're going to measure twice and cut only once, because we want this skirt to fit you. And we're going to do it the right way, just to make sure that nothing goes wrong. The other thing we have to understand is that these little triangles that they put in the middle of a skirt are called darts. What they do is they mold and they shape you. So pretty much what we have to do is we don't count them in our calculations, because when we get to the sewing machine, we're going to sew them up. So they're not counted. And if we go ahead and put them in like this and try to actually figure out our measurements, we're going to have a problem. And the problem is going to be that it wrinkles. Too many wrinkles take up a lot of paper. A lot of paper makes it small. And remember one big point, everybody. Bigger is better. Because if something is a little bit bigger for you, we can always pinch it away and take it in. But if something's too tight, we have no room. It's only a 1/2 inch seam allowance that we're doing. So here we go. There's a simple equation to do all of this. The easy equation is we have quarter scales, which means this is a quarter of your body. The pattern people have done this section. We're going to do this section. And from here to here, it's going to be one figure. And then the pattern people have done this section. And we're going to make 2 out of the fabric for the other section and put it all together so we have the circumference all the way around you. Very easy. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take our measuring tape. We're going to actually go ahead and measure the pattern. You must keep a pencil and paper. It's not going to live in here. It's going to be gone by the time you go to the back. So make sure you write all of this down. So here's your equation. Your equation is going to be front of pattern times 2 equals the front measurement. Go to the back, and your equation is going to be back measurement times 2 equals the back measurement. Your full equation is now going to be front plus back will give you the full measurement. But this is not your body measurement. We still got to do that part. So here we go. Very simple. I'm going to take my measuring tape and I'm going to draw it right up to the line where I've marked it in purple for my dart. Remember, we don't sew up, we're not counting the dart because we're going to sew it up. So I'm going to take it from 3 3/4. I'm going to jump over the dart and I'm going to measure up to my seam allowance. That's the first one. I'm doing the largest one. It becomes 7.5. 7.5 times 2 gives you your front measurement. So it would be 15. Now we go to the back because we're trying to figure out the waist. We do the same thing. We take our measuring tape, we run it all the way up to our dart, and we figure that it is 4 1/4. We take that 4 1/4 measurement, jump over the dart, and we measure it up to our seam allowance. And guess what? It's another 7.5. Back to our equation. Back times 2 equals the back measurement. That would now be 15 and 15. Well, this happened to be a little easier than most. So we take front and back and we get 30. If this is not coming close to your measurement, you now move to the next size and you do the exact same thing to the next size. And if that still doesn't work and it's still too big, you move to the next size. Now, if it so happens that you happen to be exact on the first shot, great, then you go for it. Now it's time to measure the problem area, hips. So here we go. Let's measure the hips. Remember our rule. These people who make the pattern only give you 9 inches down from the waist. Doesn't matter if your hips are up here. That's the only rule that you have to apply to. Later, we're going to pitch it away. So here we go. We measure 9 inches down. Wherever that is, we bring it across back to our marking, which is our seam allowance, and we multiply it by 2. So let's say, for example, I have 10.5 here. Times 2, that's 21. We do the same for the back, and then we add the 2 of them together. Now, what happens if one of them happens to be more than the other? For example, the size of 14 fits you perfectly on the waist, but not on the hips. You have to go down a little bit. That's fine. Always go a little bit bigger because bigger is better. Well, we've done all our pre-measurements. You end up finding out your size. Well, now that you found out your size, it's time to lay out.